Hey, welcome back to your SQL Server tutorial series. Now, in this video, we are going to continue our discussion of different terms you are going to come across when we're working with databases. Now, the very first term we are going to start with is known as data integrity. What is data integrity? Essentially, data integrity means the data in our database is correct, as up to date as possible, and describes what we are trying to describe. How good is a database if the information is confusing, it's not up to date, we have conflicting data or we have missing data? All of that stuff is going to make our database a pain in the butt to work with. So data integrity is something we strive for to prevent things like that. We don't want duplicates, we don't want conflicting information, we don't want missing data, we don't want data that you can't associate with what it's trying to describe. And that's a big thing that a lot of people don't think about. That's because it doesn't seem like it's going to happen, but it is actually pretty easy to come across when you have a bunch of data, but you don't understand what is that data trying to express. What is it talking about? So this brings up two important terms, entity and attribute. So an entity is a pretty cool word to describe something. So an entity is something. Yeah, super vague, not helpful, I know. But it helps if we go through an example. In the last video, we talked about a table that represents sales or purchases. So in that situation, the entity is the sale. This is going to be the table name. So we have a table. We can name the table either sale or sales, and every single row is an example of a sale. So the entity in this case is the sale. The attributes are the columns. This is a pretty good start when it comes to database design. That's because we already have the entity as the table name and the attributes as the columns. That way we always know what the data is describing. Each row has data for each column, and that data describes that sale. But what happens if you tried to store every single thing in your database in one table? Well, in that case, it's going to be a really super long table, and we're going to have a ton of columns. And we might have columns that are unrelated to the sale. For example, one of our columns might be customer, right? And then all of this data might be describing the customer. Now, when you grab an individual row and you take all of this data, how are you supposed to know what is describing the sale and what's describing the customer? See what I'm saying now? This is going to sacrifice, I said that weird. This is going to sacrifice our data integrity. Now, we are going to discuss data integrity in depth in future videos, but just to start off, one way you could really improve the way your database is structured is separate tables by entities. Sales are an entity, customers are an entity. So why not split this table, have two separate tables, one for sales and one for customer. That will bring our data integrity back. Now, it's best to start with data integrity because it's easier to start with it than try to force data integrity on already bad data. If your data is already bad and you're trying to improve the data integrity, you have to go and correct a bunch of garbage. But if you're starting with a database that enforces data integrity, you don't have to worry about those issues. Now, I'm going to remove the customer table here, but we're still going to focus on the sales for a little bit. We have the sales table and we have all of these columns describing these sales. And let's say we have two rows inside of this table, one here and one here. And these are describing two individual sales. I'm working on my drawing skills. I know they need improvement, but it's work in progress. So this guy made two purchases at this store. And one, he bought a car. The other one, he also bought a car. And he just happened to buy the same kind of car. So we might have the person who bought it, okay, let's say his ID is 7. He made two purchases, and he bought a car. And as we get into more specific database design, we'll get a little bit more specific with our data. But for now, car's fine. And this car might be a certain model or something, but Anyways, the data is the same for both of the rows. How do we distinguish this row from this row? This brings our data integrity into question. To fix this, we need to introduce something known as a primary key. A primary key is a column that can force every single row to be unique. If we don't have a primary key, we don't know if this is two purchases by the same guy purchasing two of the same things, or is it one purchase accidentally put into the database twice? Ooh, we can't really tell. So we need to introduce something known as a primary key. And this can distinguish different rows. So for example, we could give this an ID of 1 and this one an ID of 2. Or if you don't want to use just random numbers or IDs, you can find something that you can use in the real life to distinguish these things. For example, the cars might have some kind of item ID or something like that that you can use to distinguish, oh, these are two different cars, they just happen to be the same model. Now we're getting into a ton of detail that we don't need to go into right now. That's because the focus of this video is database terms, not how to design a whole database. So might be going a little off topic, and because of that, I'm going to end this video here. In the next video, we're going to be talking about some of the more advanced terms you might come across. So I will see you then, guys. Thanks for watching, and as always, click subscribe. Oh, don't forget to click like.